Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we've got some more camp updates. The Giants have signed Greg Van Roten, and we had Ryan Dunleavy in the van. Justin, how are you?
Dude, I'm a little jazzed up. You know, we had since we last chatted on the long form show, we had some good days for some secondary players. We had some good days for some defensive players. Some backup role players are emerging in terms of having good camps and pushing other guys that could be starters. The offensive line is coming together, in my opinion. There's certainly some frustrations about how they're still doing this rotation thing. John Michael Schmitz, please get healthy so this could possibly stop, and we're going to talk about it and break it down. But, Bobby, I'm excited about the Greg Van Roten signing. I don't think he's going to come in here and be this guy that's going to turn this Giants offensive line unit into an above-average unit, but I like the fact that he was with Carmen Priscilla last year, 34 years old, on the older side, but had his best year as a pro with under Carmen Priscilla, and he's also going to be playing next to the same right tackle that he played with last year. I think he is an addition to this Giants offensive line, and I am, for the first time in a long time, excited about the potential of stability of the Giants offensive line this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Van Roten, but first, Justin's episode is brought to you by some special people. We got Ryan Anderson, who played for...
Ryder Anderson.
No, it's Ryan Anderson. You know who he played for?
No, Illinois?
The Orlando Magic.
Oh.
We got Jack Paz. That's like, you know, what the listeners were saying after the van.
Yep, Art Stapleton coming in the
Kippy's 5K times, old Kippy's long stockings, and then Jack Myers, good friend of Mike Myers and
Michael Myers.
Simple Jack. Justin, who are these people?
Simple Jack. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. That's where those wonderful people went. To give $2 a month, plus there's some other tiers, and you get to hang out with us live while we record the shows. Bobby Skinner will send you some stickers in the mail when he gets back in the great state of Florida. Plus there's some shirt raffles a couple times a month. You're not going to want to miss it. Giants preseason game, we're recording this on Thursday, August 1st. Oh, whoa, you hear that? Thursday, August 1st. So that means 6 days there's going to be a Giants preseason game, and our Patreon members are going to have the chance to hear our thoughts and our reactions to that preseason game for anybody else. So don't miss it. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. Thanks to our patrons. Love you.
Let's talk about Greg Van Roten, Justin. Obviously, they signed him for a one-year deal worth up to $3 million if he plays 50% of the snaps. So I'm not going to assume, but it would make sense that if he doesn't get to that point, it just is a VSB, a veteran, salary benefit. Yeah, we retired that, but I feel like we've been able to assume since Gettleman's been gone a little bit. So this was a move that to me was extremely welcome, and this was even before I watched his film. Because you look at some, his metrics, right? He was 13th out of 85 guards last year in pass blocking efficiency. He gave up a total of 5 sacks, 3 QB hits, and 13 pressures in 17 starts last year. But a couple of film heads were like talking about how he's trash, and that's just not true if you're going off of his 2023 film, right? Like I did the film breakdown out, that's out on the channel on him now. Like he plays with good technique. He changes up his pass. He plays like a vet, right? Like, and he's not an ass kicker in the run game, but he does really well in space, right? Like he smacked Bobby Okereke in one snap, and he worked combos pretty well, and he's just got a good feel for the game. And the beautiful thing of that is, like you mentioned, well, he gets to play next to the same right tackle, where it's a lot of those double teams we're with, and he gets to play under the same offensive line coach who does all, who like is coaching the technique on 100%. those run plays, and pass protection. Again, he's not Kevin Zeitler or anything, but I think he does a fairly solid job. He doesn't. If he loses, it's never ugly losses. And honestly, in the film that I went through the film against the Chiefs, the Giants, and then the Lions. He lost versus Chris Jones a couple times. He lost versus Dexter Lawrence a couple times, and Aleem McNeil got him a couple times versus Detroit. But again, we're not talking about ugly losses. So I liked him as a pass blocker. Now, a guy had his career year at 34. Is that a little worrisome? Absolutely. So you worry about him like turning back into a pumpkin.
Yeah, like Jets fans don't have fond memories of Greg Van Roten.
Right. So like you hope it doesn't go back into there. But still, this is a signing that even if he doesn't play well, I'm not going to look back at this signing and be like, oh man, I can't believe they did that, because it's a smart move. Like this signing, not even just smart. I think it was a must.
I agree.
Right? Like you were already seeing how an injury to Neal, who was probably going to be their worst starter anyways, and JMS sent them into a spiral of moving guys around and not knowing exactly what to do. This was a must for me, and it just makes you feel so much more comfortable about the offensive line now that he's
100%. And I get that the Giants, and there's some critiques from fans saying, oh, well, how is this building for the future? But it's not just about building for the future, because it's clear that the Giants have an issue at tackle. It's clear they have an issue on the interior, right? Runyon's hopefully going to be here for a little bit. Even same thing. They love Illuminor. I promise you I will get it right by the beginning of the season. But with Van Roten, man, it's the signing of him and having a unit where, okay, there may not be these draft picks that we're developing, and Azudu not here, Evan Neal not here, sure, but it's going to give the rest of the offense and honestly the entire team a chance to show competitive football this year, which Andrew Thomas goes down last year, and you're playing the gauntlet of Dallas Cowboy pass rush, San Francisco 49ers pass rush to start the season. It's not, you don't have an opportunity to show competitive football when you're trotting Josh Azudu out there at left tackle, and then Evan Neal is just as bad at right tackle. You don't get an opportunity to show competitive football, and that's what I'm really excited about. And with Van Roten in particular, Bobby, this is something that, like, I'm trying to think of issues of like, okay, well, he's not a perfect player, so what are some areas where maybe he can be imperfect? I really like his right hand, where he comes out of his stance, and especially in pass pro, and he kind of controls players, but with getting that,
he makes
right
it hard
hand
for you
first.
to time up moves against him.
But I think you're going to have some pass rushers that I think in this NFC East, with the good guys they have on the interior, little bit of a worry. Are you worried that, hey, I think they can start timing up that right hand, get it off, and maybe he leans a little bit and maybe get him in trouble? That's like one of the that was like watching film, being like, if you watch this guy enough, that's how a guy can win against him.
Yeah, but I think he does a good job of changing up his pass sets where it's not the same thing every single time. And part of just putting that one hand out is that even if they do time that up or something, you have that left hand ready to go. So that's part of like the not doing the two-hand punch, because if you do the two-hand punch and they swipe, well, now you're screwed.
You're leaning.
You've got nothing to help yourself recover, and I think he recovers pretty well. I feel like he deals with strength. The main thing that shows up with him is his punch is high, but he does a pretty solid job of replacing it. But there was a snap of versus Dexter Lawrence that I did in the film breakdown. Well, what Dexter Lawrence does great is, like, if you punch high, he gets under your arms and just keeps churning his hands to keep your arms from being able to get contact on, on getting hands on you.
Remember how he said Mark Lewinsky has like weak shoulders?
Yeah.
Is this similar? If you get your hands high, then you can attack the shoulders. Is this something that could be similar?
He punches more straight out, where Glowinski's punch was like hooking up.
Yeah,
so,
a little bit more traditional.
So I
right?
think he's going to be fine. So this is the Giants' starting offensive line right now. Even though this isn't what they showed up with the first day of Greg Van Roten practice. They had Greg Van Roten at center. Andrew Thomas at left tackle.
Yep.
John Runyon is going to left guard, right?
He did during today's practice.
Yeah, he practiced only at left guard in the most recent practice.
After being at right guard for the entirety of spring and so far this summer.
The entirety of spring, because he prefers left guard. John Michael Schmitz at center.
When he comes back from his shoulder.
And then Greg Van Roten is going to be at right guard with Evan Neal. With Jermaine Elemenor. So next to his buddy Jermaine from last season.
Yep.
So the reason we know that is because Stinney has been working at left guard and then Runyon at right guard when they had another center in. So they didn't flip these two guys. They didn't flip Runyon and Stinney on day 7 of camp for no reason.
For no reason. No.
So it's Van Roten is going to be the right guard once John Michael Smith comes out. The thing that bothers me is some of the O-line rotation shit.
Before we get to that, I want to, because we're gonna do a little critical stuff of the rotation stuff and just how it doesn't make sense and what's the point of having backups if you don't trust to fully play them. But I want to talk about this thing first. I told you before the show, I had this epiphany when I was watching Greg Van Roten's film and watching him and Jermaine together, and then even seeing the Giants offensive line. And I'm talking first and second team here. I think if there's something that we're seeing right away from Carmen Bursillo, and it's tough. It's tough. Like what does the impact of a positional coach really have? And especially we've only seen 7 practices now. But here's what I think we are seeing, Bobby. I think we are seeing an offensive line that is communicating well. They're passing things off well to each other in the pass game and pass pro. I think in the run game, they haven't run the ball a ton. There have been certain days where they've dedicated running the ball. I think they're moving up to the secondary level well. We've seen a UDFA like Jay Kubis really do that well, and he's a UDFA. Did it well in college, but seeing him do it well in an NFL training camp right away is pretty impressive. I think we've seen the first team do it well. If there's one kind of Carmen Bursillo impact that I'm feeling right away, it was that observation that I've had through the first 7 days. And then even going back and watching the Raiders film and seeing how well they did that, getting a little bit more excited about the potential of an average offensive line stable unit that will not hopefully be a disadvantage for us.
Yeah, and you watch that Raiders film and you do see how well they work together as a group of 5 guys. Like I remember I watched some Raiders O-line and then the Jermaine Eleanor film. You're trying to get down as quick as possible so you can do another one. But this one's like, okay, let's, now that I know that this guy is here too, next to each other, I want to watch them work together. And I thought they did a really good job. And, working with the center, I wasn't watching the left side of the line very much in it, but I think the Giants' offensive line is going to be much better coached this year.
Yeah, I
Partly
agree.
of that is because of, I think, how bad Bobby Johnson was, but I think they'll be better. I just have a fear of having any trust in the offensive line at all because we've had 10 years of it just.
Oh, right. I say that with the most hesitancy, and Nikki Snacks is calling me. I say that with the biggest hesitancy, and I want to be excited, but also knowing that we've had a decade plus of just having some hope and having some optimism in it, and it just never seems to work.
Let me ask you this. Since 2018, what has been the Giants' best offensive line to you?
Dude, I kind of feel like it was 2020. And even
second half of 2020.
The second half of 2020, yeah, because you had Fleming, who was...
He was serviceable. You had Zeitler, Gates playing his best ball. You had Lemieux, and then Thomas, who when he had improved at that point.
I feel... Dude, it's such a shame that this is a very sidetrack, but... You see how well Kevin Zeitler's doing? And then it's a shame that the Giants felt like they needed to cut him because, he wasn't as good as what he was in 2019, yet it still was the best offensive lineman on the team, but they needed to save money. So he's still really good. It would have been nice to have him.
He made his first Pro Bowl last year. Got to see him.
Crazy.
So they're also doing a little bit of this O-line rotation, and this is where
it gets
This is where I in the last pod, I said sign Greg Van Roten and sign Nick Gates. Nick Gates actually went to the Eagles a few hours after I said that. So what they were doing is they were putting Runyon at center, which he's, I guess he did it in preseason. Ryan Dunleavy told us in the interview, but he's only done it 3 snaps in the regular season in his NFL career.
And we tried to push Dunleavy. Spoiler alert. We tried to push Dunleavy a little bit too. Are you taking this at face value? Okay, John Runyon played in the preseason and he did it a little bit in college. Are you really going to take that at face value and just
Which I don't even know if I have to look it up. I don't know if he did. I mean, he played tackle in college. I don't know, but we'll see. I guess you could look that up if you guys want.
Leave a comment.
So, they work in Runyon at center, and then Greg Van Roten was like, okay, Greg Van Roten's first day. He is going to be at center today, and this is where I get a little. I would understand if it's like, hey, we have this 5th guy, and he's just too good to be on the bench, right? This guy needs to be in the lineup, but he's not a tackle, and these other 2 guards are better than him or whatever. Or one's, a second-year guy we got to play. But they're seemingly doing all of this to keep Aaron Stinney in the lineup in camp, by the way, too, right? Not a game where, in camp when you have essentially the knowledge that John Michael Schmitz will be back at some point, where they're putting Greg Van Roten instead of a guy who didn't get an offseason. They're literally banging on the fucking walls. Greg Van Roten, who didn't get an offseason with this team, why not let him play the position that you signed him to play early on? And the playbook is different, even though it's Carmen Bursillo as the offensive line coach.
I found it to be really funny that the first day of Greg Van Roten's camp is not only at a new position, but it's also at the position where you need to set the calls, or set the protections, make the calls up front. And so I don't know if he's done that in his NFL career.
And they're doing this for Aaron Stinney. So Aaron Stinney signed a 1-year, $1.3 million contract with $100,000 guaranteed. The guy who they signed to be their backup center, they signed for 2 years, $2.8 million and $500,000 guaranteed. Right? Like the Giants, even if they cut him if the Giants cut Austin Schlottman next year, they would have $250,000 in dead money. Which is a guy now they just don't want to put in the now Greg Van Roten, they didn't practice him a ton today because it was his first day back. But I don't if they don't like Austin Schlottman, which again it's so early in camp, have they had this just like Austin Schlottman is just totally not it, or OT, like they've had 2 fully padded practices. They've made enough judgment that Aaron Stinney is so much better. And by the way, when the offensive line is giving up sacks in team drills, it's almost always Aaron Stinney, by the way. Like I don't remember a single play besides maybe El Menor where it's like, oh, that was a clear sack, except for Aaron Stinney. So I'm truly tired of saying this. Have a backup tackle, have a backup guard, have a backup center.
Yeah, what's the point of
backups? Do not make your starters who do not get enough practice time in general. Right,
especially the O-line.
We talk about how offensive line play is maybe not as good as it used to be. One, because they don't have the practice time that they used to. So don't have guys practice positions that they are not there to play.
How many attempts did Daniel Jones have today? And it was a 3rd and long day.
14.
14. So let's just say they had 4 run plays today. That's 18 plays, 18 reps that the first team had together in one day. Right? It kind of takes a little bit more to get a rhythm and get chemistry and
absolutely
right. But you're fucking around.
And they thought that you look at the Austin Schlottman contract, like that looks like someone that they brought in to be the backup center. So I don't know why he's not and why you're making this to get Aaron Stinney in the lineup. It'd be one thing if like, hey, we got to get Jermaine Elmanor in the lineup. He can't be a backup. But it's Aaron Stinney. So that's what if they don't think Schlottman can do it, go get a backup center. The only starter who I think should ever move position is if Andrew Thomas gets injured. I think Jermaine Elmanor should go to left tackle to protect the blind side.
Right.
Because it's the blind side.
Yep. I would agree with that.
That's the only time I think a guy should move positions on this team. So other news, Justin. Theo Johnson is off PUP. He technically was before the last episode, but we didn't really talk about it. I really think he's on track to be the tight end 1 on this team, right? One, they've been rotating the tight ends like crazy, but the most recent day 7, Theo Johnson was getting the large majority of first team snaps with Daniel Jones, and the guys had 3 practices. One where he really didn't get any snaps with the first team, and I keep track of catches from Daniel Jones. He now has the most. Out of the tight ends. He now has more catches from Daniel Jones and 7 training camp practices total from Daniel Jones than Daniel Bellinger, who has been there since day 1.
And Thursday was really his first consistent day lining up the ones.
Thursday was his first day consistent with ones passing. The other days was just like run heavy drills, right? Where they just ran the ball every single play.
And you know what? He moved well. He looked really good as an inline blocker.
Bellinger has struggled a bit as a blocker at times. So I really think Theo Johnson is going to be the starting tight end week 1. Like I really think they believe in that draft pick. They used him, right? They used him up the seam on a 3rd and long drill, right? They got him a screen pass. Are they throwing screen passes for Daniel Bellinger ever? I don't think so.
And then
the first practice, the first snap he ever had as a Giants training camp member was, a few days ago from Drew Lock. He catches a ball up the middle. He runs with it. Like he makes it, what would have been a nice play with it. So I think he's making a serious run to be the week 1 starter. Like I picked him, Justin, in our Camp Battles podcast a couple weeks ago.
I confidently picked him because I honestly thought you were wrong.
Well, now I have more confidence that Theo Johnson is going to be that tight end.
I don't think he's on the road. I think he is. And I think they've just been pushing him along nice and slowly, that they didn't want to just, all right, and again, you may see this with Tyler Nubin on the defense side of the ball, who returned from PUP with the calf injury.
Yeah, he came back slowly, split second team reps.
They're kind of doing the same thing with Drew Phillips, where Nick McLeod got the majority of the snaps the first couple days, and then they worked Drew Phillips in it with the starters. So, and I think Theo Johnson, as they were kind of getting him back from PUP, doing the same similar thing with Theo Johnson, I don't think he's on the road to. I think it's there. I think even while he was on PUP, the plan was for always Theo Johnson to be tight end 1. It was never really any doubt in my mind.
Okay. Other notes, Justin. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these two, but it's just basically Cordale, Flott, and Dyontae Johnson want to touch up on.
Yep.
We'll start with the negative, and that is Cordale, Flott. We've talked basically every mailbag pod we've done since the draft ended. We've talked about free agency or moves the Giants can make, and cornerback 2 has been one where you would want them to. Now you look at the cornerback 2 market, and you're just like, I don't know which one makes sense. Gilmore, I just don't think is coming here. I just never have thought he's coming here.
Yeah, Dunleavy basically said
even if he wanted to come here, I don't think the Giants should be spending the money to get a guy like Gilmore here.
Right.
Xavier Howard, there's like some off-field issues with him. Adoree Jackson is the one that makes the most sense, but it seems like that bridge has been burned a bit.
I still think the best option is the wait for 53-man cut-down day.
And I think that's going to happen.
Personnel department go to work. You're higher in the waiver claim like you were in 2022, and the starting number 2 corner on the New York Giants for the 2024 season is not on the roster yet, but right now he is on another roster.
Flott just looks really, really bad, right? And he started basically the whole year as a nickel corner last year, and they felt like they needed to go draft a nickel corner. They also felt that they needed to draft an outside corner, right? We got to see the finale of Hard Knocks. And they were desperate. They were
distraught that Kool-Aid McKinstry and
Kamari Lassiter were not there. And I like Tyler Newman more than Lassiter, not Kool-Aid. But they were really bothered by that, right? So and then
they know they got a CB2 issue.
When their next pick came around, they're like, hey, this is a nickel. This is really the only guy we can get excited about, talking about Andrew Phillips. So cornerback 2 is an issue. I think the one good thing we've been able to see Jerome Henderson do mostly is hide a bad cornerback 2.
Yeah, not really develop the corners that we draft.
But I feel like that's been his specialty is
taking these guys off the street.
Is hiding a bad cornerback 2. So, but I do think that Flott may not be the guy there once the season gets started. And we also need Banks to take a serious step up.
Yeah, Dyontae, there needs to be a day where I just lock into Deonte Banks and Malik Neighbors, because it's really fun to watch. Again, I don't think Deonte Banks' concerns is coverage. I actually think this camp he's been a good cover corner. It's all right. Well, you need to make plays on the football. We got to get pass deflections. We got to get interceptions, because even though you're covering these guys, if you have good quarterback and you have good wide receiver play, they're going to be able to communicate, get back shoulders, and get stuff. If you don't know how to turn your head, make a play on a football, that they're still going to complete the pass, even if you're in the right spot. And high expectation for a CB1, but when you're facing wide receiver ones, that's the expectation. So Deonte Banks, and I'll try to as we go into the second half of camp. You know what? That'll be really fun, where it'll be Deonte Banks versus the Detroit Lions, where you're going to have some burners. Jameson Williams may be hurt, but especially when the one day that we're going to have the joint practice with the Jets, Garrett Wilson versus Deonte Banks, that's going to be a treat.
Yeah. Other news, Deontay Johnson. Now, I guess McFadden's been a little bit on a pitch count with a hamstring, so I don't know what his total status is.
Where did we get that from?
Duggan put it out today.
Okay.
But that was something that came from OTAs. But I think there's a guy that's I think Deontay Johnson, the undrafted free agent last year out of Toledo, is really making a run to get some playing time at linebacker.
Yeah, he's looked good this camp, man. He's brought the pop in the run game. He's been one of the defensive players that have just flat out played the most snaps with.
I watch him a lot, and I just am consistently impressed.
He's out there a lot, it's one of those things of, they were really high on Trey Hawkins last summer, and he was getting a lot of reps. And there came to a point with Hawkins last summer, because we know how much they liked him. Came to a point with Hawkins last summer where he only was getting first-team reps. And Deontay Johnson is there are some practices where he does only basically get first-team reps.
Yeah. Yeah, so, he's made plays in the run game. He's actually made some decent plays as a pass rusher, which they really never gave him that opportunity at Toledo. And, he had an interception, now that was because Bobby O'Carey tipped it up, but he's also, had some pass breakups. So it's just, again, that's obviously going to be a big guy to watch in preseason. Justin, before we get into this interview with Ryan Dunleavy, I want to talk to you about the captain. Because Captain Morgan is the captain now. These episodes brought to you by Captain Morgan, the official spice rum of the NFL. Wow, you want to be on one page with football? Because they literally sponsor football. There's no other league that matters. With this NFL season upon us, you know you need the right players in the game. And sometimes you need to spice things up, son. Some games don't do the things.
I'm not conducting. I was spicing it up.
Same goes for your drinks. Don't dress it up. You don't need to dress it up. It's fine the way it is. When it gets bland, try Captain. This is the dress up. Try Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum. It's delicious and crisp, perfect for game days with friends. I'm gonna break the bottle. Spice it up. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company, New York, New York.
Visit CaptainMorgan.com or Bobby's going to break the Captain Morgan above my head.
And if he keeps messing with his hands
And
while
also,
I read
if you don't drink responsibly, Bobby Skinner will find you and break the Captain Morgan over your head.
You'll be glad you did. And here's Ryan Dunleavy. I now welcome Ryan Dunleavy on. This is somehow not the weirdest interview I've done because we're by the Hackensack Hospital at a CVS. But at the Pro Bowl in 2018, Ryan, I interviewed Tay Davis in a 50-degree rain and my friend's Hyundai. So not the weirdest, but welcome on to the show.
Why was Tay Davis at that?
Did you bring the awards?
No,
You're a piece of shit.
I am a piece
You're
of shit.
genuinely a piece of shit.
Are you going to be at future practices?
Yes, I'll be.
Can I stop you on the
I'll
sideline?
be there tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow on the fence, you have to get it from him.
Okay, you have to text me.
Tony Award winner, New York Post, Ryan Dunleavy. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
I appreciate the door-to-door service.
Here, I'm gonna give you something that's gonna help you out a little bit.
Oh, you meeting me in Hackensack. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're here for this John Mara event. So we should figure out a question. All right, let's talk about the Giants. We'll leave it open-ended. What's been your biggest takeaway out of this beginning of camp?
That they're throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't do that, whether that was Mike Kafka, whether that was Daniel Jones, whether that was the offensive line. It was probably a combination of all three. They could not, would not, did not throw the ball downfield the last couple years. And Brian Daboll wants to throw the ball downfield. He's going to throw the ball downfield come hell or high water.
Yeah, because even last year when the offense was humming and we're talking about how good it looks, it wasn't like they were just taking shot after shot. It was kind of like the quick game, middle of the field, really efficient.
It was more Tyrod Taylor than anything, and Tyrod Taylor being like, that's how I play the game. It doesn't really matter what play call you give.
Yeah, the majority
I'm throwing it downfield.
Yeah, the majority of explosives in camp last year were with Hyatt on the second team coming from Tyrod, and then you got a couple sprinkled in there from DJ. And it's something we talked about on our last show. Art talked about is that it really feels like they're building this offense and Daboll's vision around these wide receivers and not necessarily around Jones as the quarterback.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think what we've seen from Daniel Jones, a lot of underthrows in camp, is I think mostly him adjusting to A, new receivers, but B, faster receivers. Like he hasn't had to worry about underthrowing, with all due respect, the Benny Fowlers or the Kenny Galladays or whatnot. And I think this group is much younger, much faster, and he needs to adjust in terms of what a deep ball looks like for him.
This is a stretch of a question. You think anything has to do with it driving off that back leg with the ACL?
I think there's a trust factor to it. No, I don't think that's a stretch. I've asked that question to people already, so I hope it's not a stretch because I'm asking it too. And the answer I keep getting back is maybe a trust thing, not a physical deficiency, not something that's going to hinder him all year, just something that he has to get used to over the course of this month.
What did you what pushed them to sign Greg Van Roten?
I asked that question, too. Good question. I said, I assume Stinnie's been bad, right? And they said, no, Stinnie's actually been had a good camp. I think it was depth. I think it was the idea that Jermaine Illuminor is not moving off right tackle, so we need to add more guard depth. And I wasn't at practice today, but I think Azudu was at guard today, right?
A little bit.
For one series, and then they bumped him back out the tackle.
So I think it's a question. I think they're trying to build depth. They're not just handing jobs to their draft picks anymore, whether that's Azudu, McKeith, and whoever. They're willing to go to the free agent route to get better, and I think that's something they haven't been willing to do in the past, and I think it's smart.
I think because a lot of us didn't think Neal would progress this year, and then he starts out on PUP, and they're like, and I I think everyone kind of got a little bit excited, like, oh, they're actually going to let Jermaine Elamor play right tackle. That's probably the best thing, even though you want to give Neal a chance. But I think we've kind of lost in this that they did just draft this guy 7th overall. This injury should be healed, and someone that was next to us, Big Blue Huddle today, mentioned he had like a little sleeve on his left leg. Is there a new what is going on with Evan Neal that he is still, and he's the guy that's on puppet that is doing the least on that other field too.
And it looked like the first day he was doing the most of running, and then he's barely even done that since.
No, I can't say that I know if there's a new injury or not. I don't know that. I know that it looked like he was progressing in the spring, then he wasn't progressing. It seemed like he had a setback. Joe Shane wouldn't say if he had a setback. I know that before camp, when I was asking, is he going to be on PUP, it seemed like almost an automatic that he was going to be on PUP. No one seemed to think he was not going to be on PUP. He ends up on PUP. And I know that the Giants are not thrilled that he did most of his rehab not in the facility during the offseason. That Daniel Jones, obviously, is a gold standard and incredibly hard worker who was there, around the clock most days. Most guys who are injured end up doing their rehab. You have the choice.
Yeah, but they also misdiagnosed him.
That's true.
So I kind of don't blame him.
That's true. I mean, I'm there. We'd be speculating here, but if you're him, why would I spend more time around here after you guys put me in a bad spot?
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just Ryan Dunleavy speculating, no knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if the relationship's frayed on both sides.
Oh, I think
Where is this going with Neal though? Like what's
Backup tackle? Where else can it go?
For the next 2 years,
You're not
right?
going to cut him. I mean, no. I mean, after this year, if he ends up as the backup tackle, do you just dump it? And Shane and Daboll are both here after this year. That means something probably went right for them, so they might have a little leeway.
Mm-hmm.
Then
First round picks,
maybe you dump him for a 5th round pick or something.
Yeah, because first round picks, it's no matter what, you can get something from them.
Yeah, you can dump
Billy Price.
I mean, he's not going anywhere this year. He could,
Isaiah
exactly,
Simmons.
Billy Price. Yeah,
Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, so you're not going anywhere this year. He's got 2 years left on his contract, and who knows? We saw last year's offensive line, all the injuries. They might have to move Illuminor back. They're not going to get rid of a guy they think has talent. They still think he has talent. I think it's a matter of they'd like to see him push himself a little harder. But like you said, he's in this position because of their misdiagnosis.
Right, and odds are he's going to play somewhat meaningful snaps this year because that's how the NFL works.
Is there any shot he
sure.
plays those snaps without without Jermaine Elamor getting injured?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you told me that Runyon is on IR.
No, I'm saying without people getting injured.
Without people getting injured? No, I don't think so. Without Illuminor getting injured? Yes, because one of the reasons Illuminor was, as you saw on Hard Knocks, the pro scouting department's number 1 ranked free agent offensive lineman is his versatility.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we mentioned Josh Azudu, who you were like, oh, I think he was at guard. Well, it's now he also bounced back at tackle for a couple periods, too. And I know you weren't there at practice today, but this is kind of just an overall philosophical question. Greg Van Roten, first day of practice, he was at center. We talked about this in the first half of the show, too, but I want to get your take on. It sounded like at the start of the camp that they wanted to have a continuous 5.
They did.
Now, obviously, JMS gets hurt, Evan Neal gets hurt, and that changes up, I guess, their initial overall plan. But it still boggles my mind that you have backups on this team that you've given guaranteed money to. You have backups on this team, and you're not really using them, and therefore you're putting starters in situations that they should be uncomfortable in and they haven't been before. Talk to me about what you've heard from their philosophy, their thinking of this O-line rotation while JMS is out, and it's also its overall effectiveness, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think they definitely want to build the 5. I don't think Evan Neal's injury changed that because I think they were just okay, he's not going to be one of the 5 we build. I think Schmitz's injury changed that because he is certainly one of the 5. They do want to build Runyon as a backup center. We saw that on Hard Knocks too, and I confirmed that with Runyon.
Why?
Because he's done it in the past. They
3 snaps in his entire career.
Yeah, he did it in the preseason, I think, as a rookie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he did it in the preseason, and he said he's always taken, even last year, all the way through his whole Green Bay to practice snaps.
You think that's a reach? A little bit of a reach?
Probably, but I still want to have my best guys on the field. So, if that means Runyon's at center and Stinney and Van Roten are at the guards, and that's better than having got who? Right.
But here's the thing: they gave
help me. Who's the other back? Who's the other
backup
true
center?
back center?
You have
They,
Schlottmann.
Schlottmann, who they
Thank
gave
you.
more money to and guaranteed money
Yes, they
to,
gave-
where Stinney didn't get any
But
of that.
again, I don't want them making decisions on money. Like if Schlottmann's not
But
playing
what from
well,
camp has like made that difference?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because it happened on like the second day.
Yeah, I haven't asked the Schlottmann question to anybody, but I guess. But the overall thought of like, I'm okay with you not just giving guys jobs because you guaranteed them money. Like they've done that for too long. Like if they saw something in OTAs that Schlottmann was having trouble, I'm at Jets practice 35% of the time. Joe Tippmann, who was drafted before Michael Schmitz, can't snap. He has the yips. The Jets are still making him do it. They haven't signed Connor McGovern, their 4-year starting center, who's a free agent. Like, they're trying to force him because we picked him. Like, at least give him competition. That's what the Giants are doing.
Yeah, it's just when you're in, maybe I don't know when you're in camp, unless John Michael Schmitz is meant to be out for a while, right? Like into the season, it's like why are we having guys practice at positions that they're ultimately?
Well, let's see if it continues, right? I
Not
mean, I
gonna
want to
play.
get them some work. If he's still there in a week, then it's like, okay, what are you doing now? You're taking away. It's like the Illuminor thing. He practiced at left guard all spring, and then it's like, and then all leading up to training camp, and then the first day it's like go to right tackle. Well, if you knew this was a possibility, he should have got some right tackle in the spring. But
yeah, and with the like you said, why isn't there a center that they have some trust in? Like I know Nick Gates is like just a buzzword, but like Philly brought him in to be depth. Like he's started a lot of games in the NFL. Where they're like doing this to get. If they were doing this because like, hey, we got to get Neal's good and we got to get Illuminor on the field, right? We got to have our best 5. That's one thing. It's different when you're doing it to make Aaron Stinney be in the lineup, who's started 8 games and not been particularly good in his career.
Do you have any insight on Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll, the dynamic between the two of them? Because I will say, just from a fan standpoint, every once in a while I like to point out where Mike Kafka is and what's he up to and what's he doing.
What do you notice?
Yeah.
Well, the one time we
still
saw him
asking.
Hard Knocks, he gave the most like, I'm not answering this
Yeah,
question.
he had won
answer.
5 episodes. The offensive coordinator of the Giants had one sentence.
Yeah.
They're like, would
It's
you
like,
trade it for May? He's like, if you believe in a quarterback,
Thanks, Mike.
you should trade up for him.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, look, I think the dynamic is okay. Mike Kafka, from all accounts of everybody I talked to, is not the guy, ruffle your feathers type. He's not pleased, obvious, with the role. He's going to go about it, do it. I think he'll be the guy talking to them between, series on game day. He'll, draw. He'll,
He'll be in the booth,
he'll be,
right?
he'll go over the images or whatnot with them while Daboll has to worry about, being the head coach. I don't think Daboll's going to fall into that trap of I'm only the offensive play caller, the way like Rex Ryan was the head coach but really only wanted to coach defense, or some offensive guys do that. I don't think that'll be Daboll. So I think on game days, Kafka will have plenty to do while the defense is on the field. I think Kafka will have plenty to do with the offense. Day to day, I guess, whatever. He's a voice in meetings. He's, breaking down film, whatnot, but he's not leading the meetings or whatnot. I think he'll actually be more important on game days than he will other days.
Okay. We talked about how they decided to go get Greg Van Roten and address some of their offensive line issues. Do you think they are hitting that point at cornerback with Cordale Flott struggles? Neighbors has gotten the better of Banks, but it doesn't look like last year when he struggled. But what is clear is that Cordale Flott has been an issue all of camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wrote that 5 times before camp started, that they were going to.
It's not good.
They were going to have the 2 spots that they were really banking on blind faith were right tackle and cornerback. I think I wrote that 5 times, and they obviously got ahead of right tackle. They did not get ahead of cornerback. I do think they're probably reaching a point where they have to look at free agents. Stephon Gilmore, I've checked in on around. I think he wants to be on a team. Apparently, it matters to him. He wants to be on a Super Bowl contender at this point in his career. It's obviously not the Giants. So I don't think that's an option. There are lesser caliber guys out there who could upgrade the Giants more so than a Trey Herndon or a David Long Jr. has. So, yeah, I think that's a possibility, but those guys also tend to want to miss most of training camp. So that could be a Logan Ryan-esque move, not Logan Ryan, but the last week of training camp where that guy signs. Yeah, that could be one of those kind of moves, I think. but they're going to give Flott the chance. I think they're going to end up giving McLeod the chance on the outside cornerback.
Oh, really?
So official.
I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So official prediction: Week 2, who is the starting outside corner? Cordale Flott, Nick McLeod, someone
somebody
not on the
not on
roster.
the
Nick
team.
McLeod.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
That was Justin's pick before camp,
And then I've changed. I've gone with I think again I'm a fan and I'm sitting in the stance. I think I like Nick McLeod in that nickel role against the run, or
But they're
even
going to
like
use Phillips
the
there.
money
Right.
backer. But I mean,
Phillips and Simmons. They actually have depth there.
yeah,
They're going to use Phillips.
But even if
that's
you
probably
use-
McLeod's best role.
right. Even if you use McLeod as kind of like this backup slot corner too, where there's going to be snaps where they're all on the field
Yeah.
at the same time,
Yeah.
and that's why I really do believe we've seen this with the Giants even before the Joe Shane era of Isaac Yadam, Fabian Moreau, Nick McLeod did this. So we've seen time and time again, they go out at that 53-man cutdown day.
Mm-hmm.
The pro personnel department gets to work. They're ahead on the waiver wire this year
Mm-hmm.
like they were in 2022. That's what I'm banking on
Yeah, that's probably-
from a personnel standpoint.
And
So-
McLeod is probably best on the slot, but they actually have depth there, so you take from a
Right.
spot.
No, you're
depth,
absolutely right.
And you put him on. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but I won't be. McLeod has some Julian Love in him, where like he can be pretty good
Yeah.
at a bunch of spots.
Master
without
of all trades,
yeah.
master of none.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
master of the contract, love. Justin, why don't you ask your question about writing things?
Oh yeah, no. This is a question that I ask everybody. I'm sure you've heard me ask it before. What is something you're writing, you're talking about, or even you're thinking about that not a lot of other people are thinking, writing, or talking about?
Good question. You got another one for me while I think about that? Well, let me think about that.
So-
one. That you have asked me that before. I should have been prepared for that.
Well, this is the official last one, but we'll do that. All right, let's just ask it. What is your official record prediction for the 2024 New York Giants?
5-12.
5-12. Wow. So you think they're going to lose more games than they did last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're only favored in 2 of their first 8, right? It's the first 2 that they're favored in.
It gets rough.
Yeah, it gets rough real quick. I don't think that they are a very talented team. I think the biggest storyline of the season is going to be, if they get off to a slow start, how much the Daniel Jones injury guarantee business becomes a bigger deal than football. That's the kind of thing we've seen John Mara would not be on board with. He's the guy who doesn't want to tank games at the end of the season. So is he going to sign off on playing a worse player because of the injury guarantee? I think that by October could end up being the biggest storyline of the season. I just don't think they're very good. I mean,
What position group on the team do you see being like their biggest issue?
probably the secondary.
Yeah.
It's just so young. I mean, the starting group has Jason Pinnock is the veteran of the group. It's his 4th season in the NFL. I mean, you're talking about a rookie Drew Phillips, second-year Banks, a third-year Flott who hasn't played a lot, a third-year Belton who hasn't played a lot, a rookie Newbin. The secondary scares the bejesus out of me in a very pass-heavy NFL.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Something I know people, I mean, I'm working on a story. I don't want to give away too many details, but I know people aren't going to like it. But it does have its roots in running backs and Saquon Barkley.
Oh, we thought we were going to get through an interview without
We
talking
made
about
it-
Saquon.
Yeah,
We
can't
made
do
it
Can't
almost
do it.
17 minutes.
Can't do it. And I just think it's fascinating, right? Not a lot of people have jumped from either side of a New York rival to the direct opposite side of a New York rival in any sport. I did a lot of research on it, you know.
What do you mean? Steve Smith did.
Mario Goodrich did.
Yes.
Kenny Phillips did.
Yes.
Nick
Yes.
Gates did.
I understand your. I understand your point. I understand your point.
So let's say
We were basically just hitting signings in the last 2 days.
Yeah, yes. Not a lot of star players.
No, you're right.
no.
You're right.
And then obviously, I'm obviously very locked in on the Tommy DeVito situation because I think that's fascinating as far as if they keep 3 quarterbacks. He basically dared them the other day to cut him and see if they'd lose him on waiver. And I think that plays into, Bobby, what I was just talking about, the injury guarantee. If you're thinking you might not play Daniel Jones, then you better keep Tommy DeVito because what are you going to do? Make Daniel Jones your backup quarterback? You're probably going to inactivate him. So
Right.
I think that's a very interesting tell. And then who is the here's something else I'm working on. Maybe, and I might even ask you guys to help. What makes Dexter Lawrence a star besides his contract? Like, why do we refer to him as a star? It's not the box score. Like, what is it that he does that makes Dexter Lawrence? So he's the face of the like. I imagine you guys drive down the turnpike. If there's a Giants billboard, it's who is it this year? It can't be the quarterback because
I haven't seen any, to be honest.
I don't know, but my guess is it's going to be Dexter Lawrence. Like, how the new face of the Giants franchise? What makes him have that star quality?
Well, it's just domination on a down.
But
and
it's
down
not.
arrow.
But it's not in a box score.
It's in the advanced stats.
Yeah, I
board.
would-
Well, how many guys faces of the franchise do you have to dig into the advanced stats for?
Yeah, but if you just watch him, he
Correct.
balls on a down and down.
And also,
out
he
base.
just-
I mean,
he just
Saquon didn't
does-
have great box score stats last year. So
He just does what nobody else does from a position that nobody else does what he does.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But again, that's like
But that's a very you guys watch every snap
Right.
of every game.
That's the host of
not,
Talking Giants
That's not
telling you
that
that.
guy with the Giants cap over
Right.
there isn't gonna be like, oh, Dexter Lawrence just dominates. Nose,
Well, we
is
did tell
over-
people we were
the
gonna
way
do this
when
20
he
minutes
lines,
ago.
Yeah, when he lines up over centers, he just wrecks guys compared to every other guy who, when he was lining up over the guard, he wasn't this good. Like that's a very inside kind of thing. And the Giants are going to market this guy now for the next couple of years as the face of their franchise. So I think he has the sexy Dexy dance. And, he is obviously an enormous human being. So I think that helps him get some star power.
Get some love.
Yeah.
Neighbors will take
Malik Neighbors will be the star by next year.
Neighbors
though.
will take over.
that-
He will be the face of the franchise
As long
next year.
as he controls himself.
Even if he doesn't control himself, I do think he will be that star of the franchise.
It's been
so.
cool to see how him and Banks have been like buddy.
I go to Jets practice. The best part of Jets practice every day for 3 years has been Sauce Gardner versus Garrett Wilson in one-on-one reps and 7-on-7 team. I mean, they literally battle till the snap, and then they help each other off the ground
That's
and talk
awesome.
about it after the
Yeah.
play. That's what I hope for Giants fans. I hope Banks versus Neighbors becomes because it makes the level of Jets practice go up so much when those two go at each other.
Yeah. All right, that's an interview. Thank you for being in the van. Go talk to John Mara. It's hot in here.
It is hot in
It
here.
is. It is.
And,
Bring my award.
Thank you to everybody.
Yeah,
that
you
stopped by
bring
the
it.
van.
Bring the damn award to practice tomorrow, Justin.
Yeah,
It'd
we
be
did.
great. All the guys can bust my chops about it.
We did tell people to come by while we were recording this interview, and so many people are outside. We have to go say hi. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to Ryan Dunleavy for coming. Oh, almost did it again. Thank you to Ryan Dunleavy for visiting us in the van outside of a CVS in Hackensack, New Jersey. Thank you, Ryan Dunleavy. And a Tony Award-winning.
Yeah, that was very
journalist.
weird. Some guy was like asked how many people you could fit in there.
Yeah, I was wrapping everything up, and
I-
he's like, "How many people can you fit in that van?"
So because I went into the CVS to get us some drinks, and I walk out there right next to you. I was like, "What are you doing? Some videos in here or something?" And then walked away like I didn't know.
And then you walk to a different car.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I wanted to confuse the guy.
Yeah, I didn't know how to react from that. John Boy Media and iHeart Podcasts have teamed up. I have great news for you, and it's the fact that they have teamed up. And what do I mean by that? 2 of your favorite John Boy Media shows can now be found over on the Dan Patrick
I
Show.
want you to rank your favorite John Boy Media shows in the comments.
I have two that I like.
Mine are Wake and Jake and Jimmy's Three Things.
That's great because those are the two shows that have joined the iHeart Podcast and the Dan Patrick Show family. And the best part, they're going to still continue to be the same shows you know and love. And if you couldn't tell, we are pumped about this partnership. We couldn't do cool stuff like this without all of your support. So thank you. You'll be glad you did, and you checked out Wake and Jake and Jimmy's Three Things. I am going to try and peer pressure Jake to put me on Wake and Jake for the football season.
We'll be glad you did. All right, that's an episode. We'll be back. So schedule update. Because there's joint practices.
Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday will be player profiles and projections, and then Wednesday we will have a regular podcast with van interview recapping the Giants-Lions joint practices. And then Thursday will be another player profile, and then Friday we will have the Lions game recap out for you.
We're also going to be streaming the Giants-Lions preseason game from the John Boy Media Studios in Manhattan. So we will be having a live reaction to that game.
On 32 West 22nd
Nope,
Street.
that's
So we'll
not
see you
the
there.
address.
Want me to say the address?
Nope.
All right, that's an episode. We will see you guys tomorrow. Actually, not tomorrow. We'll see you. Actually, you will. We'll see you.
Yes.
Actually, no, because the live stream is coming out later in the day when people are listening. We'll see you when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.